When we talk about story problems, now there are some limits. Now we have to pay attention to what makes sense in the situation. Okay? Ocean pressure increases about 1 atmosphere for every 10 meters of water depth. This can be represented by the function P equals 0.1, because that's 1/10, D, where P is the pressure at a depth D. Represent this function by a graph. What do they want us to do? What are they asking us to do? Because we're going to underline. Represent this function by a graph. Okay? And how nice of them to give us the equation already. Awesome. Before we make a graph, we need a function table. That's right. Only now they've given us some letters, and yesterday we talked about what's independent and what's dependent. What do you start with? Do you start with the depth, or do you start with the pressure? Which one is independent? Which one do you start with? Do you start with the pressure and then find your depth?
No, depth.
Ah, you find your depth first. So D is here, and then you get your pressure. So pressure is dependent. Where could I have looked if I wasn't sure? What in the problem gave me a hint that I had to have depth first because it had to be independent? Where do you see where the depth has to be independent, Emma?
It says for every 10 meters of water.
Oh, okay, so they started there. Tell me where else you notice a helpful hint. What do you notice on the graph? For real? What do you notice on the graph? Lindsay? Good. D, depth, is on the independent axis. Okay? Pressure P is on the dependent axis. So X is here and Y is here. What's our graph missing? They're awesome at labeling graphs for us. What's our graph missing?
Title.
It is missing a title. What title do you want to give it? No, it has to be about the situation.
Ocean pressure.
Ocean pressure. Capital letters, because it's a title. Are we going to count by ones? No way. Are you for real? What gives us a hint about what we want to count by? It goes from 0 to 1,000. If we counted by 500, we'd only get 1, 2, 3 points. I would say that's not enough. Start at 0 for sure. 100, then I'd have 10 points. That sounds like a lot. What do you want to count?
Go up by 20. 25.
20? To get to 1,000?
Oh.
What do you think, Shaylin? Huh? 100 is going to give us 10 points. That sounds like overkill to me. What do you think? Go ahead, Dale. 200. 200 would be like 5 or 6 points. Well, that's what we've been doing. 250 would put us off of our grid marks because that's 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. I like having things in grid marks. I like your idea of 200. So it's going to be 200, 400, 600, 800. If we have 5 points, do you have to go to 1,000? You don't. 5 is a really nice number. What goes here? What goes here? Logan. Good. 0.1, 1/10 of the depth. And so then I'm going to fill in. Do you have to put the 0 in the front?
Yeah.
You don't. Times 200 times 1 times 400. I am hopeful. We've been doing this for a couple days now. I am hopeful that this filling in the middle part of the chart is getting really fast. If it's not, your job is to come and ask, okay? And we do not need a calculator for this one, right? Because if I'm finding a tenth of something, that's 1/10. Well, times 0 is what number? 0. That's easy. But what's 1/10 of 200? But it's just 20. I'm moving my decimal place 1 place to the left, right? Because it's a tenth. What's a tenth of 400? 40, 60, and 80. I am very hopeful that you're using your brain and not a calculator for that. Sometimes your brain is the best tool. That's number 5 over there that says you know which tools are appropriate to use when. Sometimes calculator is awesome. This is not one of those times. What's next? You have to graph it. Now we're going to have to be careful, right? What are we counting by? 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So each one of these, it looks like, is 10, right? And so 0, 0 is easy. That's the origin. Where is 200? Where is my depth of 200? Is it here? No. Every one of those is 100. And then I find where 20 is. And that's right in the grid. We picked really good numbers because they're in the grid. Then I go over to 400 and go up to 40. 660. What are you noticing? I'm making a straight line. If you're not, my guess is in 7th grade you're doing something wrong. Okay. Now, hold on. Now, do we connect the dots? Could it be 24 meters? Could it be 122 meters? For sure. Do I put arrows on both sides? Does it make sense to go up to 1,000 or 1,200 or 1,500? Yeah. So I would need one there. What's an ocean depth of negative meters? Does that make any sense? No. So we don't put an arrow on this side because that would mean you are floating in the air, right? And that doesn't make any sense. So you are going to draw an arrow going up because it could go deeper than 1,000 meters, but it does not make any sense to go back here into quadrant 3 at all because I don't know what negative depth or negative pressure even means. That doesn't make sense in this situation. Okay? What's going to happen? Questions about this part? Is this making some more sense?